Give or take a few billion, Australians spend $250 billion a year gambling. It's such a staggering amount, it's no surprise the gaming industry is targeted by organised crime. The big casino firms, Crown Resorts and The Star, long denied there was a serious problem until we exposed their links to some of the biggest crooks in the country. Tonight, though, we're turning our attention to the neighbourhood pubs and clubs filled with money-making poker machines. They might seem like the little guys when it comes to gambling, but it turns out size doesn't matter for the criminals running massive money laundering operations. It's so blatant, it takes your breath away. Seemingly without a care of being discovered, this criminal gang is turning its ill-gotten gains into clean cash. In a single afternoon, tens of thousands of dollars are being washed through the pokies in this brazen money laundering scam.
They know they're in a room where there's a camera. They think that they're not going to get caught, otherwise they wouldn't be doing it at that venue.
This extraordinary vision we've obtained is taken from an inner-city pub in Sydney, but it could easily be any pub or club with a pokies-filled gaming room.
This appears to me to be a room that's been taken over by a mob.
A money laundering mob?
Yes. I haven't seen this type of footage before, but I'd imagine it wouldn't be too hard to find.
Because it's happening in clubs, you think?
Oh, absolutely.
All over Australia?
Yep.
In New South Wales, it's almost impossible to find a pub or club that doesn't have poker machines. In fact, the state has more of them than anywhere in the world, apart from Las Vegas.
Well, there's a broad spectrum of clubs. There's the good clubs that have good internal governance and good training of their staff, and there's the other alternatives where they've got clubs which do the bare minimum in relation to observing the law.
For everyday punters, pokies are a quick way to lose all of your hard-earned cash. But leading financial crime lawyer Andrew Trigard says criminals have worked out the machines can also be used to clean huge sums of dirty cash.
Organised crime always looks for the soft spots in relation to regulation and venues. They'll find the places, and once they find them, they're like bees to a honeypot.
There's data out of New South Wales which suggests between 5 to 10% of clubs are appropriately handling money laundering concerns. That sounds like a very big, weak underbelly in that sector.
Yes. They're obviously turning a blind eye to serious crime.
The leaked CCTV vision we've obtained runs for 4 hours, and in that time, tens of thousands of dollars are washed. And it's clear it's not the gang's first time. They're well practiced. The syndicate runs with a military precision. The middle-aged woman with the pen and paper has the perfect cover. She looks like an ordinary punter, but is in fact the general in charge of the operation.
It appears that she's controlling the room and she's running the show. She is handing out the cash and she's collecting the receipts from the machines. She's the general.
Most of the other people in the room are what's known as link chasers. Working together on pokies that are linked to a major jackpot, they know by pouring enough money through the machines, one of them will eventually win the grand prize. And when they do, they hand the jackpot ticket to the general, who'll cash it out as clean money.
The link chasers, they are betting. A large number of machines are being occupied within the club at once, and they know that the law of averages is someone's going to win. They're prepared to lose as long as they can still launder it.
The man in the white hoodie is also taking orders from the general, but his role in this operation is different.
The guy on the right appears to be the one just feeding the dirty money in, and he'll get the clean ticket out and then take it to the teller, presumably. What we're seeing here is poker machines being used as washing machines.
Being used as washing machines?
Being used as washing machines. This is money laundering.
We've also obtained the data from the machines in this room, which proves what you're watching. Feeding 2 machines at once, in 4 hours, this man fills them with $27,000. But incredibly, he gambles just $1. The rest is withdrawn on a ticket and cashed in. And as simple as that, the dirty money is now clean.
It's brazen. They don't have a care in the world. They own the room. They know what's going on in there. Yeah, this is a perfect little operation. This is not a venue that should be having a licence to operate poker machines.
It's no secret that criminal gangs have been operating in Australia's big casinos. For more than 2 years, 60 Minutes, The Age and the Sydney Morning Herald have been reporting on serious governance failures at Crown Casino and The Star. But smaller venues like pubs and clubs have avoided similar scrutiny, until now. How long do you think these organised money laundering syndicates have been targeting pubs and clubs venues with pokies?
For over 30 years, when I was in the cops for over 20, it was happening in RSL clubs around the inner city, inner west in those days, but no one actually knew because we didn't have the data available to us. A lot of the analytical work and briefings that all happens here.
In a rare interview, the New South Wales Government's chief gaming investigator, David Byrne, says based on the new evidence his team has been gathering, the leaked vision doesn't show an isolated incident. It's rare, though, that someone like you gets on camera and calls it like it is. Are you doing this because the society, the community, the clubs, the pubs need a wake-up call?
I think based on what we're finding, they need a wake-up call, definitely, yeah. Anne-Marie's processed the results over the last week.
Byrne's small team of investigators and analysts have made some startling findings. In the first 4 weeks after the COVID lockdown ended, they identified 140 pubs and clubs and more than 130 individual gamblers associated with money laundering activity.
And that's only in the Sydney metro area, that's not the entire New South Wales landscape. So
how big do you suspect the problem actually is?
I would suggest easily in the hundreds of millions, and that doesn't capture those same people operating in casinos across Australia, and then that doesn't include people who are operating interstate within the shores of Australia. So hundreds of millions, possibly billions.
Why has this been going on for such a long time and we're only getting the data, the evidence of it now?
I think we're, as an agency, really fine-tuning our analytical approach to the data that we possess, and it's resulting in this type of outcome.
The money being laundered through poker machines is staggering, but so too are the vast array of crimes that are feeding this well-organised operation.
I can safely say that there is large-scale drug supply, some human trafficking intelligence associated with some people, and definitely medium to street-level drug supply as well.
If this is the state of affairs in New South Wales, is it fair to say the problem's happening in Australia across the country on the same scale?
Australia-wide, for sure.
After receiving a tip-off, we found proof of what David Byrne is talking about across the border in Ipswich, Queensland. This place looks like a cheap massage parlour from the outside, but as we quickly found out, Angels is offering much more.
How much is for like an hour massage?
You want a happy ending or just massage?
How much is the happy ending?
Happy ending together, 130 for 1 hour.
The business is run by Y Kwan Pun, who was convicted of prostitution-related offences last year. This parlour is part of a network of other Asian organised criminals across Australia, some of whom are involved in human trafficking. Authorities believe those supplying women to Angels Massage wash some of their dirty profits through poker machine venues in Queensland. They're part of a vast network of criminals, washing hundreds of millions of dollars this same way. So why are governments so unwilling to clean up this part of the gambling industry? Does the lobby group Clubs New South Wales hold a gun to New South Wales MPs when it comes to reforms to battle this problem?
I think some MPs are more exposed than others.
If you want to understand the power and influence of the gambling industry in Australia, you only need to meet Troy Stolz. What's been the personal cost that you've endured for speaking up?
Massive, absolutely massive. It's cost me financially nearly $750,000 in legal fees. It's cost me my mental health. It's cost me my marriage.
In 2011, Troy Stolz got a job as an auditor with Clubs New South Wales, the largest lobby group for more than 1,000 clubs in the state. His role was to make sure staff in these venues knew the laws around money laundering, particularly on the pokies. But he quickly discovered a much bigger problem.
For the last 4 or 5 years of my employment with Clubs New South Wales, I identified that the industry was somewhat deficient in the levels of compliance.
When you first began to raise red flags that there was significant money laundering happening in pokies venues, what was the response from the industry?
It was a case of how do we tackle this without driving our customers to the local pub down the road. There was a serious concern that puts scrutiny on your players, asks too many questions, and they're going to take their money down the road. It fell upon deaf ears, basically.
After raising concerns internally, Stolz came to the conclusion that Clubs New South Wales was not interested in cleaning up the industry. So he decided to take the nuclear option and leak documents to the only politician he believed wouldn't be intimidated to speak out publicly, Federal MP Andrew Wilkie.
90 to 95% of New South Wales clubs are operating illegally when it comes to money laundering and the funding of terrorism, and no one is doing anything about it.
In February last year, in a cynical political move, the two major parties teamed up to block Wilkie from tabling Stolz's documents in Parliament. And Clubs New South Wales sued Stolz for leaking. Now, more than a year on, and with legal bills piling up, he's had to sell his home and look for a cheaper place to live. Why push ahead? Why keep speaking up?
Look, the industry has had it far too good for too long. These venues are meant to be for communities. There's every chance that you're taking your family for a meal to your local club and you're sitting next to a group of organised criminals. That's how serious it is.
Whistleblower Stolz believes the only way of cleaning up the industry is severing its close ties to government and calling a royal commission. But that won't be easy.
There's no shortness of boasting from the industry about which politicians of which political persuasion they have on board and who will lobby and advocate within Parliament, for what they need. And the fear factor from the politicians is we're talking about a massive, influential, powerful industry. It could crucify a politician if they're not playing the game.
You think politicians who stand up to the pokies lobby get cut down?
By the knees, in one swoop.
Unsurprisingly, there aren't too many examples of politicians publicly taking on the gaming industry. You only need to look at the experience of former Prime Minister Julia Gillard to understand why.
Today, I can confirm that the government will be bringing to the Parliament legislation to address problem gambling.
In 2010, she sought to introduce pokies reforms via a special card that would limit the amount people could bet. But she underestimated the political might of the gaming lobby. Then Government Minister Kelvin Thompson is one of the only politicians from that time willing to speak out about what happened behind the scenes.
The industry was very unhappy about that because they felt that that would reduce their revenue.
Did the Gillard government underestimate their power, their fury?
I'm not sure, but there's no doubt that they absolutely applied the blowtorch to Queensland and New South Wales Labor members of Parliament.
With her reforms, Julia Gillard was trying to limit problematic pokies use by addicts and to stop the money launderers. Thompson now says she never stood a chance. Clubs New South Wales issued threats to campaign against Labor MPs in New South Wales, who told Gillard to dump her plans, which she eventually did. It worked. Clubs New South Wales won.
I think there's no doubt about that. It's my view, based on the experience back in 2010 and since, that the power of the gambling industry poses in Australia an integrity and corruption risk.
They're big words.
Well, I think the evidence is clear.
Why is it in New South Wales that this lobby group has so much power?
They have the membership base through those 1,200 member clubs. They are cashed up, courtesy of that $6.5 billion in gambling losses every year in New South Wales, and they're ruthless. They use both the carrot and the stick. The carrot of political donations, where you see millions of dollars going in donations to MPs and their election campaigns, and they use the stick, the threat of personalised campaigning against MPs where they see fit.
Undeterred by Gillard's failure, New South Wales Minister for Customer Service Victor Dominello has been campaigning publicly to reform the gambling industry.
At the heart of the report is a relationship between organised crime, money laundering and gambling.
Earlier this year, he proposed a cashless card for poker machines to prevent money laundering and problem gambling. We've been told that Dominello's office was warned by the gambling lobby it would turn on him, as it had turned on the Gillard government when it sought similar reforms. When Clubs New South Wales invited Dominello to its annual function, he refused to go. And rather than stand by him, some of his coalition colleagues turned on him. The Deputy Premier at the time, John Barilaro, accepted the invitation. He was so angry Dominello refused to go to the function, he sent the minister this text message.
You are seriously a dead-set dick. What about just looking after your stakeholders? Like Clubs New South Wales. They are an important stakeholder. Do your f***ing job.
We waited outside of New South Wales Parliament to ask Minister Dominello why his government has failed to act. Morning, Minister. Nick McKenzie from 60 Minutes. I'd like just to grab you for a moment.
Yeah?
We're doing a story about pubs and clubs. Do pubs and clubs in New South Wales have a money laundering problem?
In what context?
Well, we understand there's significant money laundering happening in pokies, or via the pokies in pubs and clubs. Are you aware of that?
Well, look, clearly there's been numerous inquiries right across the country, and they've identified, in many ways, the tip of the iceberg when it comes to money laundering. So there's clearly a problem.
You're saying it's the tip of the iceberg when it comes to money laundering in pubs and clubs in New South Wales via pokies?
I think where there is cash, there's crime, and there's clearly a problem, Nick, clearly.
Does the lobby group Clubs New South Wales hold a gun to New South Wales MPs when it comes to reforms to battle this problem?
I think some MPs are more exposed than others.
What do you mean by that?
Look, it's not for me to comment on individual MPs.
Minister, can we sit down for an interview about this?
Look, there's an inquiry into Sarah at the moment. I'm happy. I don't want to prejudice those proceedings, but after that, happy to have a long chat.
Okay, thanks for your time.
Cheers, mate.
We also offered Clubs New South Wales the opportunity to speak with us, but they refused, saying in a statement that they will work with authorities to stamp out money laundering in clubs if and where it occurs. I've spoken to many of your colleagues in Labor, serving and former. They all were too scared to go on camera and speak up and against Clubs New South Wales. What does that say about the power of that lobby group?
Well, it indicates a great degree of power, and I think that the only effective way to combat it is to ban the campaign donations.
While many politicians are unwilling to stand up and call out the dirty underbelly of this industry, the evidence we've collected is undeniable. For now, it's left to people like Troy Stolz to continue the fight. If pokies clubs are not doing enough to fight money laundering, turning a blind eye, who's winning?
The criminals at the end of the day are winning. They are tearing communities apart.
Are you going to keep fighting, given the cost to date on you and your family?
Absolutely. I've seen so many people suffer, and I'm going to continue speaking up and I'm going to continue the fight.
Hello, I'm Tara Brown. Thanks for watching 60 Minutes Australia. Subscribe to our channel now for brand new stories and exclusive clips every week. And don't miss out on our extra minutes, segments and full episodes of 60 Minutes on 9now.com.au and the 9Now app.